What is up, Watch fam? Happy Wednesday, and welcome to this week's collection review. I am Christian from Theo and Harris, and today we're going to be jumping into the watch collection of Orlando Bloom. Let's do it. Okay, before we get into it, a quick wristwatch check. I am wearing a Universal Geneve pole router paired on a Theo and Harris Jean Rousseau collaboration, the Sark strap. It's a beautiful blue alligator lined with a really supple yellow calf. It's called the Sark because the calf lining, which is, like I said, yellow, matches the Cuddy Sark yellow, which is an obscure scotch that I drink, quite often. So it has a lot of TNH team meaning. What is new at TNH? Logan Hannon, our resident watch geek writer, just published an article on some of the movements that he's encountered that he has found interesting and innovative. I highly recommend you guys check that article out. We published it yesterday on theoandharris.com, along with 6 new incredible vintage watches. We've got some really beautiful Rolex and Tudor, as we, I think, always do. But really what was super cool about this week is we listed both King Seiko and a Longines with its original box. So, I was really excited about yesterday's listings, and I hope you guys are as well. Who is Orlando Bloom? Well, you might know him from Lord of the Rings, when he played Legolas, Pirates of the Caribbean, where he played Jack Sparrow's friend, or his huge which was all over TMZ for a while. It's totally vile. No, but really good for Katy Perry. But what you might not have known is that Orlando Bloom is actually quite a well-known watch collector, at least in some communities. Really, probably even in the more mainstream community than we would expect. And not necessarily because of the supremacy, and his collection is supreme, but because his watch collection, or at least a large part of it, was stolen. Dun, dun, dun. Is that funny? If it's funny, you put it in. If it's not, then don't. So I didn't personally know that his watch collection was stolen. I didn't know about this until we started doing research on Orlando Bloom's watch collection. And it's not just terrible because of money, right? Orlando Bloom's probably a very wealthy guy. He can probably get whatever he had again, probably 4 or 5 times again. But if you're a vintage watch geek, like basically everyone watching is, and like Orlando Bloom really, really seems to be, it's not it's not about just the watch and it's not about the money per se. It's not about the value. Even if it's not insured, it's about the value, the emotional attachment, you have to a watch. Could I afford another blue 1601? That yes. Yeah, sure. I could swing another one. Not the point. My blue 1601 means more to me than most items I could ever, possibly imagine. And it seems when questioned or pressed on the issue, Orlando Bloom kind of resigned to saying, honestly, I don't even want to talk about it. Which is a reaction that I find extremely relatable. I've never had a watch stolen, but I can totally understand you saying, you know what, let's not even go there, but let's dive into the watch box. Let's dive into the stolen watch box. And first was a Rolex 1016 Explorer on an Oyster band, a beautiful watch with a matte black and seemingly flawless dial. This is the watch itself that has literally named the Explorer dial, that 369 configuration. Very important wristwatch. Believe it or not, it's kind of undervalued. At least many people view it as. I do. I think that in a world where, rare subs are trading, upwards of 50, 60, 70, 80, 100, and way up $1,000, and you can get a top-notch Explorer below, 30 or 40, that's pretty incredible. So for you guys out there that are looking to drop serious money on a very serious Rolex, you should consider that one. Moving on, he's got a 1655, which is the original Explorer 2. They call it the Steve McQueen, and it is best recognized for its shockingly bright orange GMT hand. Speaking of GMTs, he also had a beautiful Rolex reference 1675. There aren't any photos of the watch too up close, which is a little bothersome, but it seems as if the watch is in tip-top condition. I don't know if I'm seeing things here, but that case looks really defined and really well beveled and everything. So I would hate to lose that one. And beyond that, his collection goes into the realm of ultra valuable, ultra collectible, the first generation Milgauss, the reference 6543. This is probably one of the least talked about vintage Rolex sports models out there as far as the mainstream market is concerned, but one of the most valuable and collectible. It's just that the market is controlled by a lot fewer people, so it doesn't get the play or the sex in public. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that real public admiration that the Submariner does. Speaking of Submariners, I'll reference 6538, an original Big Crown. Serious watch. I wonder where he's getting his watches. Orlando Bloom obviously is not surfing eBay, for his watches. If you guys are familiar with the world of vintage Rolex, the watches that we just talked about basically sit at the top positions in this world. Of course, he's going to have the best watch collection if he wants to. He just gives someone money and they get it. And I get that. And not to belittle people that do that. I'm glad for anyone to be supporting the watch industry. But it seems, judging by his reaction after the theft, that it wasn't just, I lost $3 million or I lost $300,000, whatever the hell the number was. It seems like he really cared about these watches and talked about them and looked at them like we do here, on this channel. I'm Theo and Harris. So reading about this theft obviously broke my heart, but my heart was rejoined or reassembled when I found out his collection was returned to him. I don't know the details, the fine print on the return or how it happened after the investigation, but I was super glad to hear that it did. So here comes the big question. What do I think Orlando Bloom should buy from here? The obvious answer would be more Rolex sports models. And I could rattle off a few references that would basically satisfy this big question at the end of these collection reviews, but I won't. I'll give one Rolex. I think it would be really cool and refreshing to see a vintage steel bubble back in his collection. It would show an appreciation for a totally different era and kind of vein that is equally Rolex. The same way that when I look at total, vintage, Patek, super expensive, super fine wristwatches, enjoy the new Daytona. That's cool to me. It's almost a polar watch, but it shows, at least to me, that your appreciation is for larger variables. It's for history. But now, if I were pushed to venture outside of Rolex for Mr. Bloom, I would go with a vintage Panerai. Now, Panerai is currently top of mind for me. My dad just got a vintage Panerai Radiomir. We talked about it in depth and our passion for it just last week on Liquor Run. So admittedly, my feelings about Panerai have been recently, resurfaced, but I still do think that's the kind of watch that Orlando Bloom would really enjoy. It has all the variables, right? It's a vintage steel sports watch with serious heritage. If you look at his collection, we're not talking about watches that are one, available very often, or two, affordable. To own the watches Orlando Bloom owns, you need to both be able to afford them and be willing to invest the time into getting them. So that's my recommendation. And if you guys enjoyed this video, I highly suggest you guys subscribe to our channel at Theo and Harris for more geeky videos like this. And I will see you tomorrow on Lug to Lug, where we jump into two very rare Tudor alarms.